The Atherton Tablelands are one of the most biodiverse areas in Australia. The Tablelands Regional Council has put forth several policies and strategies to protect biodiversity and to mitigate effects of the climate crisis. TRC is in the process of creating a vegetation management plan. To aid in the development of roadside vegetation management policy, we have evaluated current roadside vegetation practices. Based on environmental, economic, and social aspects of roadside vegetation management practices, we identified alternative practices that may enable TRC to better reach their goals in regard to climate change risk response, emission reductions, and biodiversity protection. These alternative practices were assessed in regard to their economic viability and their alignment with existing policies. We also identified areas for future case studies to test the environmental and economic benefits of our proposed alternatives.
TRC's most frequent method to manage roadside vegetation is through mowing and slashing cycles. Every year, the Tablelands Regional Council spends $875,000 to $1 million on this management strategy. Along with expenses, mowing and slashing can have negative impacts on the environment and public health through its emissions of carbon dioxide and volatile organic compounds. Based on the current slashing and mowing practices, the TRC produces 106,560 kilograms of CO2 emissions per year to manage the local roads throughout the Shire. Mowing and slashing also have the potential to kill native animals and spread invasive plants and weeds if the machinery is not cleaned properly or frequently enough.
The council uses glyphosate to help protect road infrastructure, keep visibility of signs and markers, and to help prevent weed dispersal. They use a spot spraying method to prevent contamination of other plants in the area and to limit the number of times they do this in order to prevent weeds from becoming resistant. However, the use of blanket spraying has been seen by many community members and they're concerned for their health and the environment. With blanket spraying, there's an increased risk of herbicides entering waterways and into the Great Barrier Reef, as herbicides are a leading pollutant found there. And while glyphosate is used to kill all plants, it has very harmful impacts on humans and has been shown to cause serious health concerns.
Based on the negative impacts from current practices, we identified environmentally sensitive roadsides, or ESRS, which are road features that cause adverse environmental impacts when inappropriate RVM strategies are applied. Our criteria include proximity to watercourses, presence of regrowth or remnant vegetation, and proximity to the wet tropics World Heritage Area.
We used ArcGIS to identify these ESRS within the North Tablelands region. Some layers we added included watercourses, the Vegetation Management Regional Ecosystem Map, and the Atherton and Shannon roads. The areas where these three layers intersect represent the ESRS indicated in the purple. We then sorted them in proximity to the Wet Tropics World Heritage Area. Metadata of these maps will be provided to the Tablelands Regional Council to use for future revegetation management strategies.
We've identified 3 different types of roadside vegetation. For areas with full sun, we recommend short native grasses and shrubs. There are also a variety of tree species that do well along the roadsides. The 2 key considerations when choosing tree species are their full height and the width of their canopy. We specifically recommend tree alley formations, which shade out weeds below to reduce mowing and slashing. Choosing alternative roadside vegetation strategies are case dependent based on the area's infrastructure, such as power lines and road signs.
Looking at the 7-kilometer length of Boar Pocket Road, current practices of mowing cost almost $7,000 per year alone. With our revegetation options of having a tree alley, which costs almost $40,000 with 3 years worth of maintenance, the council will start to save money just after 6 years, beginning at $2,000. With the help from tree and rainforest restoration along roads, the council would pay $12,240 over a 3-year period with maintenance included and save $8,500 after 3 years. And by switching to these revegetation alternatives, the council would reduce their carbon dioxide emissions by almost 400 kilograms per year and have little to no maintenance needed except to do general safety corrections.
TRC will benefit economically, environmentally, and socially by switching to these alternative RVM practices.
These will simultaneously align with their policies that commit to protecting biodiversity and mitigating the effects of climate change.
By switching to these alternatives, we can keep the campaign shading our Shire
And create strong community government bonds to truly save the landscape.